Hey guys, welcome back to We'll Make It Work. In today's video, we're going to be looking at how to replace your trunk handle with a rear view camera handle. This will help when you're in reverse, just give you a nice backup camera. Back in the day when these cars were produced, most of them did not come with the rear view camera, so this right here is off of AliExpress. I'll drop the link in the description, and I'm going to show you how to install it. Let's get into it. For the first step, pop open the trunk, get a little pick tool, come up to your latch, slide it underneath, and then pop that off. You're going to want to just pull this plastic off and hold that aside. Once you have your latch trim removed, you're going to come underneath this handle, and there's a little screw in here, Phillips head screw. You're just going to want to take that off, and again, you don't want to lose these, so just set it aside when you're done. Once you're done with the latch and the screw, the next step is going to be to get the pins out from underneath. There's one here, one about here. They're just underneath holding this trim on. So the first one you're going to want to start with is in the middle. If you slide your hand in there and just work your way over to the side, you'll feel it start getting closer to the bottom. Once it's about as tight as it can get, you know there's a clip, and you just pull out. So same thing over here, it gets tighter, tighter, tighter. Once it's tight, you just pull out. You want to go somewhat easy. There's another clip somewhere over here. Yep, right here is another one. That's that one. Again, we're just gonna right in the corners. So slide in from where it's easy. Pull that out. And then work your way up. There's another one, I think right here. That's that one. Another one here. There's like 5 in total on the top, so there's another one here. That'll pop out once you know it's loose, this little fitting here. This should be loose around this now. If your model has this latch here, which I think if it's US domestic market, it should, there's going to be a little screw in a terrible place. Right there, you're just going to want to pop that out. So behind that handle, you can see back there, there is a ball and a knuckle. And to pop it out, you're just going to want to get something like this, like a pick tool. Get that in there on the base of the lever and push down. See if I can position it right. There we go. Now that it's free, it's still attached by this wire cable going into there. And to actually get to the screw, all you do is turn it and free access. Just when I thought I wasn't going to be able to figure the wire out either or lose it, I did. So there's this glow-in-the-dark cover. Just going to take that off, drop it for now. And then that little ball. So to get that ball out, you can see it's... Oh, well, I accidentally did it. That's how easy it is. So now you just push that through the hole, and you should be able to get this whole thing off once it's like fully through. All right, guys. Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say once you get that ball through the hole, you just have to. It would look like this. Whenever I got the left side loose, you're just gonna have to get a pick, kind of underneath here, and pull it out. And then once you do, it's basically slides through. The ball sits in that little holder right there. That's where the wire was. So now we can take this whole thing off. Guys, once you get that trim removed, you're gonna want to come underneath here, and this is the back of your trunk handle here, this thing that says 270306. There's an electrical connection and a few screws or bolts there. I'll show you in a minute exactly which ones we're gonna be taking out, but first you're gonna want to disconnect that electrical. This is a pretty easy electrical connection as far as Audi goes. There's no real like push in or pull out things. You just pull it straight out. After your electrical connection's off, there's going to be a few bolts you're going to need to get. They're all 10mm as far as I know. There's this guy here holding on the actual trunk assembly, and then there's more 10mm on these aluminum plates here. This is a 10mm. There's another one on the other side in there, but I don't know if my... Yeah, right there, there's another one. And then on the other side, same thing. These are for your trunk plate lights. So there's another one there, another one there. I'm going to get a ratchet and a 10mm socket and take all of those out. That should loosen up the whole plate and then allow you to kind of slide this whole base plate out. So once you get these plate light housings out from underneath in here, you're going to want to basically start your hand in here and reach around to the back of the light, and this should all be loose now, so you can kind of push this whole thing out. And I'm going to reach around to the other side. It is kind of sticky, so you might have to push hard. probably from being there for so long. So you're actually going to need to take this electrical connector off. And then there's 2 bolts on this guy here, 1 and 2. Basically this cable here that goes through ends right here. And we need to run it down through its little channel there where my fingernail is. So we need slack, and then it'll come up this way. And then we slide the pin out. And that's how we get our lock mechanism out. Once you get this just out like that, electrical connector disconnected, you can't have your key in the keyhole on the outside. I tried that. You basically want to just turn and spin. You can see that column back there at the end of my thumb. There's a little column that won't focus, but it goes up into the trunk. And as you spin it and turn it, it'll come out. And so you're going to need to do that to push this panel out, which is your lights and trunk handle. To fully get this plate out, you're going to need to take off these 2, I believe they're T20 screws on the back of the latch housing. Yeah, T20. So take off these little aluminum/steel screws, and it'll let your whole plate come out. And then now it's completely loose, but these get caught up, these lights, so you have to kind of squeeze the top down, like downwards, while you're pushing them through. Otherwise they might get a little caught. So like right now the other one's a little caught, so we'll do the same thing over here. Squeeze it in, push it through. Do them both at the same time ideally, and hopefully it comes out. All right guys, figured I'd take a video on the back piece. So it is 2 separate pieces. These are where the 2 T20 screws are. Basically above your light housings, while it's still in there, you're going to have to pry, let me use my other hand, pry the tops of them off, and then once they're off on the top, this will still be here. So you basically have them hanging like this. It'll bend a little bit, and then this is obviously the back piece. This is more inwards towards the trunk. Once that's out, you'll be able to kind of take this and just kind of rotate it out. There's this piece here on the bottom that can kind of stop you, so you have to like twist it down and twist it up while you're pulling it out from the back. I took out my lights, and then once you have it out and you're ready to replace it, this piece here, to get it out, you just start peeling back this crap, I guess, this vinyl stuff for the button. That's the stock button. And then you get your new camera. Since we need to run the cable, what the fuck? Alright, since we need to run these cables through the back, we're basically going to need to get a drill bit and drill a hole through here because they don't fit through this hole, the stock hole. So we're going to widen that up a bit so that these 2 can fit through. So this is what it looks like. The right screw hole here, next to the keyhole, I took maybe a 3/8 or 1/2 inch drill bit, and I just drilled a hole through it, big enough to the point where these 2 things can go through, and this as well. So I fed it through one at a time, and then I got that black piece there to fit through. So now we're just gonna pull these all the way through. So this is what it's going to look like once it's in. You can see it's kind of snug there. Not much room at all. A little on the right side since we drilled out that hole. But both of the wires, or both of the connectors went through. Yeah, it's sitting pretty snug. You can pull on it. It won't come out really. Because we did this T20 bolt, like I mentioned, just reused that in the hole that still exists. So fits pretty nice. And now we have to put it back in. So putting it in is actually a lot easier than expected, at least this plate here. You can see it's just a little loose, but that's fine for now. When we come back in, I actually ended up taking off that T20 torque screw on the back. As you can see, the wire's hanging out from one, and then I do not have the T20 torques here anymore. So we're gonna go ahead and put that one back in. Just as a reminder though, the when you get this metal bracket back on, you can see right here it says L. This is my driver's side, and I'm USDM, hence L. And then on this side, this nut down here is the one that's actually like stuck to the actual piece of aluminum. This is the one that came off for me. I don't know if it was connected at one point, but if yours is the same, this is the orientation it goes on. So the left is in the top left if you're looking backwards towards the back of the car. Yeah, and these again are just 10mm nuts. So basically, once you get your light housing back in, you're going to need to get your lock assembly, which is this guy here. You're going to need to get that back in. Just kind of have to wiggle it through on the top. Looks a little like this. Boom. Should be somewhat flush. There's going to be a little more room on the part that's, I guess, more up here. Like this right here is going to have a little gap, but it should be flush on the bottom here. And then once you get that in, while this is loose still, you need to push this up here and maybe in a little bit to get this wire some slack. Get in here and then reattach that pin, which I already did. So I use, again, my pick tool. This thing is like I use it a lot for removing trim and everything. But basically with one hand, I just kind of got up here and put it in. And then with the pick tool, I pulled the cable to the side and then it dropped itself back in. And as you can see, it's seated back in its channel now. Perfect. So the next thing we're going to want to do is put that 10mm bolt back in that hole right here. I'll draw an arrow on the screen. That'll mount the lock permanently. And then after that, we're going to be reassembling the latch. So in here for that lock mounting hole, my original bolt did not fit. So I went and found just a random Torx bolt. I don't really know what this is, the threads or anything. But I'm just going to, it looks like it's able to tap itself in. Hopefully I don't strip the actual Torx. But I'm just going to try to send that in so it kind of maybe holds itself there. So as you can see now, guys, I got that random bolt in there. And I didn't want to tighten it too much as to strip out the plastic. But this now up here does not move back or forth at all. So I know it's a weird angle of my hand here, but it's secured. So that's all we need. Make sure to subscribe if this has been helpful so far, and we're gonna now probably remount this. So I was actually wrong. The next step is just gonna be put these electrical connectors back in. So on this one, brown's gonna be on the top, and then blue with red stripe is gonna be on the bottom. And then back here, the blue wire is gonna be the second from the left. So now we're gonna work on the latch. So to put your latch back on, again, these are just 10mm. This is one piece here. It's a nut that's kind of loose on a washer, so it spins freely on the washer. You're going to want to go ahead and just put these back on, these two bolts here. So I've already started the first one, and I dropped it, but you get the idea. You just want to put those back on and then tighten them up. So once this latch is nice and secured again, we're going to take this wire coming from the back of the camera and run it behind this fiberglass or whatever this is. Come out here, there's going to be a yellow and a red connector coming out from the camera. The yellow one, pretty simple. Your kit should have come with another yellow connector, so go ahead, plug that in to this other yellow connector and then tape it together so it doesn't fall out. I noticed that they just very smooth going in and out, so it's very easy to take and actually like have it fall out. And then from the red connector, which is this guy, in your kit you also had this black connector on the end of a wire, and then you have a red and a black wire. It's red because I already ripped it, but basically this is going to be your power to your camera from the other wire. So what we only want it on when we're in reverse. So what we're going to do is with the two power wires, we need to run it to the left tail light because that's going to be the closest. If you run it the other way and you're out over here, your right tail light's going to be better. But for the left tail light to take this out, it's pretty simple. There's going to be a little fabric circular piece right here, and then inside I've already taken mine out so you can see it's like kind of loose in there. But there's going to be a kind of a bolt. All you need is a flathead to take it out. You just get your flathead in there and counterclockwise gets it out. So that'll loosen your tail light assembly, and then to get your tail light assembly out, it's pretty easy once that happens. Basically, you're just going to pry it this way and then pull out because these two balls sit in these two knuckles here on the left. And then we're going to want to take out this connector here. Pretty easy to do. You just pull down on this and then it should slide right out. Once you get your taillight assembly out, you're going to be left with this connector here. So your blue and red one's going to be your reverse light power, and then the brown one right next to it, number 4, is going to be your ground. So with your red and black connectors, you have a black wire and a red wire. Your red wire is going to be to your positive, which is your, again, your blue and red. And then Your black wire on the same one is going to go to the brown one. So we're going to basically just cut back this loom and splice those together so that they're all good. On your yellow connectors, on both ends, you're going to have this red wire hanging out. This is actually your signal wire telling your radio to automatically bring your camera up when you're in reverse. So you're going to jump your red wire from your yellow connector to the red wire from your camera power connector. So red to red. And then on the other end, this is the other end. I still have it coiled up here, but this is the end that's going to go into your radio. And you can see you have another red wire. This end of the red wire is going to go into a signal wire that should be available on your radio if your radio is compatible. So this red wire, you're going to keep it on. You're just going to run it up to the front of the car, and that acts as a signal wire. All right, guys, to splice this red wire coming out of the yellow connector, this is the signal wire. To splice it into the positive cable, that's going to go to the taillight. I took one of these guys and I cut the main wire, the main red wire coming off of this black connector. I cut it maybe a few inches down here and then splice the end of both of them together. All right, guys, the next step is going to be to remove that that black trim piece that kind of goes in the back of the trunk here and acts as a floor essentially for this. We're going to want to remove that. Basically, we got to get this plate off. What I want to do is I want to run these wires like behind this, and to get this off, you need to get this off. So I'm going to take this off. There's 2 bolts under these. I'm going to get this one off, that one off, and then I can get this whole side piece off. Then I'm going to see if I can't sneak the wires down. I have my own wire loom, so I'll probably attach it to this wire loom here, and then see if I can't get it through that grommet, run it into here, and wire it up to the harness. It's going to be a little bit difficult here, but I don't want to have this trim back on and then just have a wire hanging down in, and then that just kind of gets tucked up under here. Although you probably could do that, that's not really what I want to do. I want to make it look good, so we'll see what happens. So if you're going to do it the way I'm going to do it, first step is get that trunk liner out, and we're going to want to take off these 2 10mm nuts, like so. And this guy. Now, there's 4 clips that hold this in. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think you just have to pull it straight up. Sure enough, I was right. There's a hole here, 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 and here. And basically, just pull that straight up. It's going to make a little kind of a cracking noise. And then once it's up, you just got to tilt it out because it's going to be stuck under this trim here. Next, you're going to want a T30 Torx bit on a ratchet. This is my T30H, which is like the hole in the end. And then these are both T30, so you're going to want to get both of these out, and then there's 2 more in that one down over there. We're going to lift both of these out, and that'll allow us to take off this whole trim piece. Okay, guys, so this is my solution. I grabbed some of this stuff, which is wire loom, as I was talking about, just to protect the wires, and then I basically ran both of these cables and their attached wires down through this wire loom, attached it to here, to the other, the rubber wire loom, and then kept going back down, fed it through the same grommet, pulled this side piece off, the first 2 clips, 1 clip there and another clip here, and then after coming out of that rubber grommet, what it's going to do is it's going to come this way. I'm going to drill a hole to the right side here on my body. I think there's 2 layers here, so I'll drill a hole again to the left, or the left on this side, the right on the other. Run the wires through and then tap them to the power and the ground for the reverse lights. So I drilled the holes through it, and my solution for protecting the wires on the exposed metal there so it doesn't wear out over time is I drew a little piece of Sharpie on both ends. So one on the inside end, and then another little Sharpie amount right there. Now I'm gonna pull it back through, and then I will know that in between these 2 lines, I'm gonna wrap a bunch of electrical tape as kind of like a jacketed insulation for the wire, and that should protect it from wearing out on the kind of potentially sharp hole there. Since I did just use a drill bit, it could be a little sharp, and I don't want my wires to break. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. All right, guys, the electrical tape's on. It's nice and snug in there, so there shouldn't be any vibration in there now. And I ran it out here. So as you can see, it's ready to get spliced into this. I just have to cut back this tape on the harness so I can actually get some slack to work with it. And then basically the other wire, which is going to be your video cable with the other end of the signal wire, I ran it down here, and then it was hanging here, so I tucked it under here, tucked it under here. I keep it on the, the back side here. So behind the tie downs, ran it all the way down here behind that tie down. And then as we come around, basically it pops up here. If you really want to, you could probably like take off the seat, but I'm not doing that. So just tuck it in there. And then as you're moving the seat like up and down, you can kind of sneak it down below the seat. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to kind of pick up this plastic here and try to run the wire, sneak it underneath this plastic trim. Once we get to the front, same thing here. Going to sneak it under this plastic trim, if we can, which it looks like we'll be able to. And then once we get up here where I have electrical work going on right now, I'm trying to fix my horn, so yours won't look like this, but essentially it's going to come out probably where your hood release is. There's a little hole behind there, so it'll probably snake out. You can zip tie it up to any of these, go up there, and then to your head unit, which once again mine's out, but you're going to want an aftermarket head unit regardless, so that it'll send the signal wire. So yeah, it should, the other end of your video cable should end in here. All right, guys, as you can see, I ran the wire right under that plastic trim, and it's nowhere to be seen here. But when we get next to the seat, the driver's seat here, unless you have leprechaun fingers, you're not going to be able to really work your fingers in there. So we're going to be taking off the seat. This is optional. If you don't care if that wire's there, then, all the power to you. But it's easier to really just kind of get it under without the seat there. So what I'm going to do is take it out. And what you're going to need to get these 4 seat rail bolts out. There's one here, and then 2 on the back as well. Is an M10 spline bit. So it should go right in and be nice and snug. And you're just going to take all 4 of these out. You are going to have your power on in your car to take these out, because you need to move your seat forward and backward. So the fact that this wire loom here coming out from the seat controls electrical harnesses is nice and long makes this a lot easier, because you can just tip the driver's seat forward and backward, and then that gives you a good amount of working room here to get most of the front, and then you'll have to tilt it the other way, and then you can get the wires in the back as well. But as you can see, no longer is there a wire there. So we're going to drop that seat back down. I mean, it's still here, but I can do this with the seat on. So I'm going to drop the seat back down and bolt it back down. And that's what the wiring looks like. I covered it in electrical tape again just to hold everything together. But as you can see, I ran the black to the brown wire, and then the red one is spliced in there with a connector with the blue and red one. So everything should be all set to plug in your taillight again. And that also means that we're good to reattach this here, since we're done with all the wiring. And then we're also going to need to put on the trunk trim. When you're putting on your side trim again, a lot of these clips stay stuck in the body. So like that one up here, and as you can see, they need to kind of slide in from the end, and then they push into that hole. But 3 of mine were stuck. So you can see I have the other one here, and I've only actually put 1 back on. So the one down here, for me, it's simple to get it out. It's just you don't want to lose them and have it drop down there, because you'll never ever see it again. Yeah, so to get it out, you essentially just get like a skinny flathead and kind of get it like that, just underneath one of the tabs, and you have to pull out. In other words, like pry it, like use it as like a pry bar. And then with your other hand, I can't do it because I'm holding the camera right now, but with your other hand, you're gonna basically just have it in front of the clip, so if it flies out, it won't drop down into the abyss. But whatever clips you took off, it's likely that they're just going to be staying in the car, and you are going to have to do this to get them back in so you can put your sidewall back on. All right, guys, so finished product. Before you do all that, I recommend actually testing that your brake light works, because mine did, but yours might not. I have my hazards on, so you check that. Boom, this works, that works, everything's good. Assuming the brake light works, let's go put it in reverse and see what happens. Okay, guys, so I had to put my key in the car. You can't just have the lights on. Reverse lights apparently only work when your key is switched on, the ignition's turned on. So as you can see, yeah, boom, we got those bright ass reverse lights. And I have no way of testing the camera, but I did all the wiring correctly, so I know I'm correct and I know it'll work. I've yet to put that last trim back on, but you see the wire, the lights up here still work. So nice and bright, lights up the ground. This is really nice and bright, lights everything up back here. Perfect. So yeah, now we're gonna go through putting that fabric back on. To start, this is what it's basically gonna look like. There is gonna be a gap here and there, but it really is not that noticeable. I'm sure if you use black electrical tape, unlike me, I used white because I ran out of black tape. It'll look a lot cleaner and you won't really notice it as much, or if you paint match to whatever your car's paint color is. But we have to get this handle back in. That's one of the last things. So I've went ahead and put this trim back on. As you can see, it's still loose up top. I didn't do any of the top clips, but I did do the two here and the two there. So just to get it kind of so it's sitting correctly. The first piece we're going to need to put this all back together is going to be the actual handle housing. So if you remember, that's this piece with the ball. Where is it? Right here. That slides in on this, or this slides in on that. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and put this together. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is slide that back in and then feed the ball through. It might not go all the way through at first. You're going to have to like push it through the hole back here so it comes out up here. And you'll be able to grab it. And now we're going to put the handle back on. All right, so I went ahead and got that ball back in. As you might be able to see there, there's a slit in the black piece. Basically, you just got to pull it out with one hand, and then with the other, you have to slip this black piece underneath the ball and in between the ball and the wire so it goes into that slit. Then it'll be like this, or whatever, like that. You just want to slip on that glow-in-the-dark handle piece, the cover here, slip that on, and then before you go and kind of push it back in into its clips, I think it clips in, yeah. Before you go and push it back in, there is still that screw that goes into that white piece of plastic here. So don't put the ball in the knuckle yet, because we're going to need to get that screw back in. All right, so this took me a minute to figure out, but essentially you just put the left side in at an angle first. So it's up underneath the fabric, and then you push up with the right side. Use your palm and just push in, and it should kind of click itself into place. And now we're going to do that little screw. All right, also slide this back on. If any of your clips came off of the fabric when you took off your trim, it should help hold it on. And then don't forget that little Phillips head screw under there. Aside from that, we should be done with this, but you can't be done yet because you gotta put your trunk sill trim back on. I have stuff in the way, but basically, if you remember, we had these two 10 mil nuts, so we're just gonna go ahead and put those back on. All right, guys, so I haven't put the nuts on yet, but you can't forget to peel this trim out and leave it over the plastic piece. You don't want any water seeping in somehow, so do make sure you pull this weather stripping back over the little lip on this to hold it down. And then there are 4 clips holding this in, so just make sure you push down. Here, 4 little pops. And now we're going to be putting that 10 mil on and that 10 mil on. All right, we're almost there. Can't forget these little tie downs though. They are nice, and they will keep your signal wire in place. So we are still going to want a T30 Torx for both of these. There are 2 screws per tie down. Just going to make sure they line up. Be careful not to strip them. Obviously, it's Torx, so you know it's kind of sensitive. And then once those 2 are in, we can go ahead and put this this liner right in here. All right, guys, really the last step is to splice in your signal wire to your head unit and then plug in the digital output. And then this is what it's going to look like in the back when you're done. No wires anywhere. The only wire you can see is this wire loom I used. run it down and then into the grommet, and then it disappears, and that's it. So even like right here, nothing. So perfect. Looks great. I also did lose that along with my pick tool, so F's in the chat for those. All right, guys, if this video was helpful, please consider subscribing and liking. It's going to help the channel out in the long run. I put a lot of work into these videos, especially this one. It's going to be my longest video yet. And if you want to see more Audi B7 A4 content, like I said, subscribe. And, you know, I'm doing tons of mods and repairs and anything in between to this platform. So, yeah, hope you enjoy your camera, and peace.